I'm standing here looking at how beautiful this is. And I'm like, why not build the main house right here, you know, at the rapids? On the other side of the river, there's at least, 10 feet? Something like that. This ledge, and it's very flat on top. And behind it is just, it's all crown land. So it'd be amazingly cool. It'd be tough to get materials over there, but I don't know, man. I mean, this little rapids right here is the coolest part of the whole property. What I've been thinking for the main home, you know, up until this point, it is a gorgeous view. That ridge line is literally 500 feet tall there. And, you know, we were just swimming right over there. That's the rapids. So it's kind of cool. You know, if I trim back some of these trees along there, if I do a little bit of trimming on the lower branches of this birch tree, you should be able to see the rapids. And you can hear them from here. So what do you guys think? I mean, obviously I got to finish my first cabin and survive that process. Not get eaten by the bears, et cetera, et cetera. But what do you guys think about this location on top of the bluff versus actually building right at the rapids over there? Let me know in the comments what you think, because I don't know, man. I'm thinking being right by the rapids could be pretty cool.
I am James ALOFS. I left the big city to build an off-grid homestead on 40 acres of Canadian wilderness. This area of Ontario has giant ridgelines, deep valleys, and pure rivers. Black bears, gray wolves, mountain lions, moose, and many forest spirits share the land. I started in November 2023. Starting with a modest 12 by 16 foot guest cabin, my goal is to build such a glorious homestead that I attract a magnificent wife, have 10 babies, and raise an Irish wolfhound. Welcome to Wild Homestead.
There's a big storm rolling in, and it rained hard for 2 days. This big tree, it broke off about two feet up the stump. So I'm gonna have to chainsaw the heck out of this guy. There was another big tree just up there. There was a tree on my ATV path. But to be honest, there was no flooding. I posted a video on my Instagram of the river that this river flows into, and it was literally like 5 feet up. So the spot on that river that I've gone swimming before, on previous episodes, was under like 5 feet of water. Absolutely nuts. And it turned from like a deep blue color to a dark brown. Just all that sediment. But in terms of like flooding and stuff on my property, it wasn't, you know, it just rained hard for 2 days. That's pretty much it. So not much to report. That's a sandhill crane. What you doing, buddy? Where are you going? Cool. Oh! Don't fly down the road and stop on the road. Thank you.
Bonsoir, mesdames et messieurs. Je suis James, your local Quebecois cabin builder. We are here today, and I am thinking about putting in skylights. So this was never part of the plan, but I got a comment from a subscriber there on YouTube who said, hey man, it would be awesome to have skylights in your cabin, and if you're gonna do it, you should probably do it now while it's easy to frame in. So first thing this morning, I was thinking about it all night last night. First thing this morning, I drove into town and I parked in the parking lot outside of the local hardware store down there, because there's terrible internet reception up here. Search the heck out of skylights. It would cost about $3,000 for me to put in 2 skylights. One facing north up the meadow and one facing south overlooking that glorious ridgeline and the river. So I'm already planning on putting in a window here on the first floor on both sides, and then a window on the gable ends on both ends. But it would be spectacular to be able, you know, when you're up in the sleeping loft, to be able to see south, and north. It would definitely add some complexity. There are risks with putting in skylights when it comes to leakage if you're not 100% correct in the installation, right? And this being my first roof ever, I'm like, I don't know if that's such a good idea. But I was literally about to walk out of the store with the skylights and all the flashing and everything. I was like, wait a minute, you better sleep on this. We'll report back tomorrow morning. God, can you hear that? Those, I'm pretty sure, are the spring peepers. And literally before the storm rolled in over the past 2 days, they were not calling. They've just woken up from the wintertime. So I don't know if you can hear it. I can hear the falls, the rapids there, and the spring peepers in my tent. How incredible is that? This is why I came out here, man. It's hard not to be happy when you hear running water and spring peepers. Update on the Irish Wolfhound. So I was actually supposed to take delivery of the dog on April 6th. And I had already actually decided back in kind of March, the end of March, about 3 weeks out from that date. And I notified the breeder that, listen, I'm not ready. I'm sorry to do this to you again, but I can't take the dog, so I've deferred to the next litter. And this lady, so I've lost a second deposit, which is a bit of a bummer. But, this lady, she has a huge waiting list for her dogs. So she had no problem. There was another family who wanted a dog actually down in Toronto, and they moved up on the waiting list. They got that dog. So it was a tough decision, but building the roof and the floor for the first time, I've never built a roof before. Like this is gonna be the hardest part of the build. So I need to be able to focus on that. And I couldn't, training a dog is like having a baby, right? It's like literally having a baby. So got to get the cabin finished first. So the next litter is actually being born the first week of August, pick up for first week of October. Picked up some more 2x6s. What I'm going to do is, I don't know if you can tell, but the rafters towards this end, the ones that are directly above that temporary platform that I built out of my log ladders, are not spaced properly on the top. They're spaced properly on the bottom. I was using a block that was exactly well proportioned to space them, but on the top, I just measured it with my tape measure, 16 inches on center, and they've actually bunched up too much to the left, if you can tell these ones on the top here. So I'm going to rebuild that temporary platform. I also realized that all the other stuff I'm doing with the roof, I should probably have that up there anyways.
Those are two sandhill cranes. They sound like dinosaurs. That's unreal. What? What? Dude, it's the black lab. It's that frickin' black lab, and he's got a buddy. Hey, what are you doing, buddy? How the hell did you get back here? Oh my God. What are you doing? Hey. Uh-oh, my food's back here. What are you guys doing? Oh no. Dude, what are you doing? No. What are you guys doing? What are you, hey. Do not lick my food. No. How the hell did you guys get back here, man? You didn't even come down the trail. You just came through the bush? What the hell you got? No. Hey, buddy. You look like a wolf, dude. You don't look like a wolf. Okay, let's go. The dogs just took off into the ether. They're gone. That's so bizarre, man. That black lab is the dog that showed up. Literally hour one when I arrived on the property, he followed my car down the road about 1 kilometer. And then he was kind of following me in down this, as I was blazing this trail. But it's almost 5 months later. It's crazy. They just came out of the ether. But those two dogs are from a working cattle farm. It's more of a hobby farm, really. I think they've got like 20 cows. They're meat cattle. And are they upstream or downstream? I mean, they're on a tributary creek that feeds into my river, further downriver. So I guess you could say they're downriver, but they're several kilometers away. These dogs just wander like crazy. But I mean, seeing the dogs 2 times in 5 months, that's not exactly frequent. I can't tell you how cool it is hearing the spring peepers. Can you guys hear that? That is so relaxing to hear the spring peepers just croaking. Huh. so funny. My cousin called me 2 weeks ago, and she watches all my videos. You know, she's like, "Hey, cuz, like last episode, you were singing a song from The Sound of Music. Like, how you doing, buddy? Like, you doing okay? You've been living in a tent a long time. Maybe you should talk to a therapist or something." And I LOL'd really hard because, like, I'm loving it. I feel like I'm doing great out here. That reminded me, I had a company called BetterHelp reach out to me. They're essentially a platform that connects you with licensed therapists. They're the sponsor of today's video, so thank you to BetterHelp. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to reach out to these guys. I downloaded their app. They said, well, use the app and see if you like it. It's very intuitive. You fill out a little questionnaire, and it will connect you to a therapist with the right kind of background to whatever your personal background is. So I'm speaking to the therapist this Sunday. I'll report back next week to see what, how it goes, what they say. Am I slowly turning into Colonel Kurtz from Apocalypse Now out here or what? When I was a kid, my family moved from Ontario to California. I think I was like 9 years old or something. My sister was 6. I remember I was having some difficulties kind of integrating into the new school. I was getting bullied a little bit and just having a tough time making new friends. And my parents took me to see a therapist out there. And after only 2 meetings, it kind of really changed my mindset about things. And, sometimes it's really useful to get out of your own head, also to get out of, speaking to your parents or your immediate family. Sometimes it's nice to speak to like a non-judgmental, third party. So I really benefited from that. So I'll be interested to speak to this therapist from BetterHelp this Sunday. I'll report back to you what they say. You can go to betterhelp.com/wildhomestead and get a discount on their service. And you can chat over video chat, over a phone call, over even, messaging if you want to, whatever works for you. And the link is down in my bio, betterhelp.com/wildhomestead. Your mental health is literally everything. It doesn't hurt to talk to somebody out there, guys. Those are 2 white-tailed deers. I just was able to film the second one as they're going off into the dense forest to the south. I'm just over here. There's Thor's red oak. Oh my God. I was just in town. I had to buy new bear spray because my 1 can of bear spray, the trigger guard fell out and I can't walk around with it without the trigger guard. So I had to get more bear spray. But anyways, white-tailed deer, that's awesome. That's one of my favorite critters. So my uncle has a moose hunting camp about 200 kilometers north from where I am. And there's no white-tailed deer. So we're right around the furthest northern limit of white-tailed deer. Maybe they go another 50 kilometers north, but not by much. This is like there are more moose than white-tailed deer in this area. So this is why I had to go in town this morning to get more bear spray. I lost the trigger guard for this thing. Honestly, I don't love the stability. I'm going to put a third beam in between. These are 24 inches on center. It might technically be sturdy, but
there's too much kind of wiggle in there. You know what I mean? I just don't trust it. I'd rather have 3 beams. I'm going to take out those cross members. Down, man. That's a long way down, so you don't want to... Oh, yeah. Just discovered an interesting thing. So I was using a block to do all the rafters on the bottom. And we've got some crowding up there, right? This is why I've recreated the temporary scaffolding inside, is to fix the spacing there. The block that I was using to give me perfect 16-inch on center spacing all along here, I just took it, and the spacing is not consistent all the way along the top of the rafters. And to measure the spacing on the top of the rafters, I was using my tape measure. So for whatever reason, I don't know how, it's off. It's like a little bit too much, a little bit too little, a little bit too much, a little bit too little. So I don't know what the heck was going on, but I guess the most reliable way is to really use a block. What I'm doing with this board now is I'm trying to get the last rafter square. Sure that the starting rafter and then the middle rafter, if that is square with the plywood, because the plywood is perfectly square, if I can get it so it's perfectly aligned and then set the rest of the boards off those 2 boards, we should be good. Because if my first board is slightly off and all the rest of them are set in the exact same way, the plywood, when it gets to the seams, because you're going to have 1.5 inches, right, on the 2x8, the top of the 2x8, where you have to secure on one half, it's 1 sheet of plywood, on the other half, it's another sheet. So those rafters have to be perfectly straight up and down. And I don't know else how to do it. This just came to mind.
Eureka. So what I've discovered is that all the boards are slightly askew in that they are angled ever so slightly this way. So the tail is coming out. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna readjust that rafter, or it might be this one, so it's perfectly lines up straight with the edge of the plywood. And then I'm just gonna do a test and see if I realign using my block, if I realign the rafter next to it, will that also be square or plumb, or whatever the word is, with the edge of the plywood? And if it is, I know I can just realign all the rafters off that one. Nice. It's 9 o'clock, and this is the time I usually go to bed, but it just doesn't feel good. You know, like this is my first time building a roof. So going to bed on like uncertainty, I think is always not good. It's better to have a little bit of any kind of positive momentum, you know, heading into the next day. And now I know how to line up the rest of the rafters so that when you get to a rafter where plywood overlaps, when they meet, you have to have them relatively straight, because you're basically sinking 2 screws into a thing that's only 1.5 inches wide, right? So you've got 3/4 of an inch and 3/4 of an inch. So that's why the rafters need to be straight here. Holy crap, guys, look at this. Look. It's an old barbed wire fence. Literally, when I tripped on this, I took out my bear spray. Because I'm like, somebody set a freaking booby trap. And then I tried to trail it over there and over here, and it just disappeared into the ground. I'm like, oh, this has been here for a long time. At first I was like, who the hell set this booby trap? Is that the Viet Cong? Is that Charlie? Is he in the trees? But this used to be a working cattle farm. Holy, it's raining. That was not in the forecast. My alarm just went off. It's about 6 a.m. That was not in the forecast. Weather forecast. Ooh, yeah. What is it good for? Absolutely nothing. So, maybe gonna go back to sleep for a little bit. Hopefully this stops. The weather forecast is now showing it's gonna rain all day. Oh, wow, that was lovely. Just woke back up. It's 7:45. It's still pouring rain. Check the current weather forecast is to pour rain until about 1 p.m. Then there'll be 2 or 3 hours of really gusty wind, but clear, and then it's going to rain all night. So we'll see what we can get done. Three weeks without my beef liver supplement pills. I finally got them back. Oh my God. So this time I got a mix of its bone marrow and liver. Geez, I just remembered I had left my drill on the second floor. Thankfully, I had left a piece of 2x6 over it, so it's a little damp, but it wasn't getting rained on directly. I got to dry it up on a fire though. It's really coming down out there. I'm actually wondering, I need to buy the waterproof membrane for the roof if I'm going to be able to put up the plywood on this side tomorrow. As soon as I put the plywood up, I'm going to want to put that waterproof membrane. So maybe the better thing to do this morning is to buy the waterproof membrane. I need to get a certain type of stapler where you like kind of smack it down and it staples, as opposed to the one where you punch it. So yeah, because I don't want to put up the plywood and then have it get absolutely doused. Oh man, I cannot wait. I still haven't decided whether I'm gonna take just one of the trees or maybe take 2 or 3 to knock down the window to see that ridge line. Hot damn Vietnam, that looks so much better than what it was looking after the last time I adjusted it. The only place that looks a little weird, but you're not gonna see this, right? This is gonna be covered, is just between is that one rafter. It kind of goes in the opposite direction, but you can see the gable wall is not straight. So I'm kind of lining that rafter up so it at least meets the end, so there's a seal there. So it'll be easy, you know, when I'm chinking the cabin. But all the rest of them, they're all spaced properly now, and most importantly, for my plywood, they're gonna line up properly with the seams of the plywood. So when I've got 2 sheets of plywood meeting on one beam, they will line up properly so there's enough space. But the plywood is now uncovered on the top there on the sleeping loft. The difference is that that's always gonna be open, probably for the next month or 2, until I put a finished floor on there. So that has lots of time to dry out. However, because with the plywood on the roof, because literally as soon as I lay it down, I'm gonna be putting this waterproof membrane on top, I'm worried that it won't, if it gets wet,
it won't be able to dry out properly and it'll start to rot or warp. Hello. I just got back from the city. Got all the, got a cool staple gun. Got some roofing nails because I don't know which one's going to be easier. I'm going to try both methods. And I got the big waterproof membrane and vapor barrier. Enough to do both sides. Can you hear the spring peepers? So it's supposed to stop raining by 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. And then fingers crossed we can do this roof, baby. But if it doesn't, the backup plan is I just got my trail cameras in the mail. Oh, man. Strong. Oh, Lord almighty. Ah. Holy God. Jeez Louise. Okay. There's no visible fence. Got all the chunks over here. It's still under there. And God knows how far it goes that way and that way into the bush. But this must have been, you know, back on this meadow where they kept the cattle. Which is nuts, but that was like 60 years ago. Look at that. 2 holes from falling embers, you know, up the stovepipe. And there's this staining, but all that's totally fine. It's completely waterproof, dry. It just looks ugly. But this is nearing 5 months living in this tent. And to have only 2 holes, it's pretty darn good. It's legit rain. It's no longer drizzling. It's actually raining now. So I think what we're going to do, we could put up the trail cams today, but I just want to see some of the plywood up there. Even if we get the first row, you know, up, I just like to see it and see that it's up. So hopefully this drizzle / light rain will stop, but let's throw them up. Let's do it, guys. Would you look at that? That rafter is as square as heck. Hip to be square. Huey Lewis in the news. We got the first two panels up. Heck yeah. I think it's super important to make these well aligned because all the rest of the boards are going to be, based off of these this bottom rung. So ran into a bit of a conundrum over here. You can see here, because these are 16 inches on center, one of the reasons why I think they do the roofs like this is if you have an 8-foot piece of plywood, it should be able to start halfway on one and go to halfway on the other. Now, the problem I ran into is that if you do the proper spacing, so there's got to be 1/8 of an inch between the boards because they will expand and contract, in heat and cold, and in case, they do pick up some moisture, etc. So you have to have 1/8 of an inch spacing, which I do over here. But if I hit that 8-inch spacing there, it just pulls it off this one. There's just not enough. And what I realized, once I squared up, those 2 or 3 rafters here with the board on top, once those became square, I really should not have measured out with the block. I should have used my tape measure and then marked the centers and then marked that 1.5 inches, on either side so that I could line up the boards with it. Because by using that block that was like 14.5 inches long, right? So that you get that 16 inches on center between the 2x8s. Every single one of these boards has its own personality. It might be twisted a little bit this way, twisted a little bit that way. Even if I get 2 boards like this rafter, the one just off there, it's warped slightly this way. So when I put the block between them, because it's warped like this, that will line it up 16 inches on center on the top, but the bottom is a little bit further over. So then when I measure on the other side, it's going to be a little bit off like that. So if I was to do this again after centering or squaring, 1 or 2 rafters, I would then measure it out with my measuring tape and not use that block. It's no big deal. I'm going to have to use a little bit of extra plywood, so I'm going to cut it on top of this rafter. Plywood sheets are not that cheap. They're $65, but if I have to buy an extra 2 or 3 sheets of plywood, so be it. I'd rather have the roof done properly. Okay, got that cut nice and clean. Now, it's basically from that rafter to the last rafter, it's 8 feet. But because we need overhang over the cantilevered front, I'm not going to bring it out all the way there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring it out to one past the gable rafter right there. A new quandary. So this rafter right here that I want to end it on, this guy right here, I never squared up these rafters on the outside. running into the same issue again, is that this 8-foot sheet, if these things were truly accurately 16 inches on center, should be able to reach all the way over there. But it's literally right on the edge of that rafter, right on the edge of it. And it just needs to be, if it was even 1/4 of an inch over, I could sink screws into it or nails. But alas, it is not. So I think I'm going to cut it on the rafter before and then put on an 8-footer. And it'll be interesting to see of the internal rafters, because that should go from that rafter maybe over to the second last one internally to see if that is actually square on this side. Really challenging because the 1/8 inch spacing, as far as I can tell, you also need it vertically between boards. So it's hard to tell from here, but there's an 1/8 of an inch spacing I have between this board and the boards on the bottom. So these things are very heavy. So what I had to do is get up on the scaffolding over there and lift it up just ever so slightly, slide it up, hold it in place, and then tack it in. I believe I actually did it on the top in one corner, and then come over here and lift it up ever so slightly so there's also an 1/8 of an inch space there, and then tack it in on the top. I'm not sure. I mean, it appears to, that's what the code is in Canada, to have an 1/8 of an inch of spacing, because I guess, again, the boards can contract or expand due to heat or moisture. So I guess it's better safe than sorry, right, to have that 1/8 of an inch. That glove gave me the exact 1/8 of an inch spacing I needed. So I jacked it up there, then I walked to that top corner and I pulled it up until I thought I had about an 1/8 of an inch there. And there was also an 1/8 of an inch versus that sheet, and I tacked it up in that right-hand corner. So now I'm going to tack down probably 2 or 3 rows and then come over here and hopefully pull my glove out. perfect timing. It looks phenomenal. That's a big roof, man. It's a big roof. And I can't tell you how difficult it was maneuvering those 3/4 inch sheets of 4x8, plywood. Very, very difficult. Thankfully found out that mechanism of sliding it up the ladder, and then to get that 1/8 inch spacing between all the boards. That was really hard until I discovered this chisel. And the chisel's very easy to kind of slide in and prop up those super heavy panels. I've learned a lot on this side. So the only part we haven't done is this end part. Excited for y'all to see that. So basically there's going to be one more rafter, and it's going to basically connect at the base of this rafter, and it's going to run up and then connect into the face of that ridge board there. So it's going to come down on a slant, and then you can see those 3 notches. Those 2x4s are also going to be jutting out, and I'm going to be screwing that board into those 2x4s. I think it's going to look really cool. I think it's worth taking the risk for the added complexity. And I might use a metal bracket or 2 on that as well. But thing that I have learned doing that side, I will be able to apply these lessons while doing this side of the roof. So thanks so much, everybody, for watching. And we will see you next week on Wild Homestead.